What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we are taking it to a little off meta build, if you will, for those onslaughts. We went in legendary. You can see right here we are deep into the 40s, no problem, without a well or a tether. We got two solar guardians on our team, and then me, the big old stasis boy, being able to give us that nice recuperation and restoration with being reviving allies and getting defeats with the same damage type. So we're gonna go over this build for y'all, getting you through those onslaughts with ease. So starting us off, this perk right here, the Kintsugi. This is the final blows with weapons of the matching damage type of your subclass. Create a nice burst of healing around us with restoration. After reviving or being revived, you gain an aura that provides an overshield for us and our allies as well. So it's good for some of that nice end wave content with the 35 plus waves. Definitely get super juicy, especially those tormentors, yellow bar enemies, and those champions. So starting us off with our abilities and our stats that we are building into. Built this out heavy into resilience and recovery, with discipline being my third choice for those glacial grenades. We got the sick new blue steel looking shader on this with the old bag head with the ornament on this bad boy. So it's definitely very good support build, keeps everything at bay with the freezing, shattering, sliding. So we're going to cover that as well with the subclass. For our mods, we got that special ammo finder because we are going to be using two different special weapons on this build, at least for the way I have it played. You can switch out any of the weapons that we have on to play your game style and whatever feels best to you. We're going to have harmonic siphon for orbs of power, as well as powerful friends to share that love with the armor charge by picking up all of those orbs. Top of that, we're going to have impact induction, momentum transfer, and bolstering detonation. Just a way for us to get our class ability back, our melee back, as well as our grenade back while doing damage with our melee as well as our grenade. So it's a little positive feedback loop inside of our abilities in themselves. We're going to have harmonic reserves for our adreceptor as well as our heavy, with arc resistance, solar resistance. This is totally up to you. Whichever onslaught mode you are going into and enemy type you get, you can switch these on and off. Ogres are big on the void, so you can switch off something like solar, because hive is solar and a void in my opinion. But like I said, up to the enemies you're facing. Now for me, I went with the stasis ability surge on this for our weapons. Get that nice 17% increase when we give these two together with time dilation and a double bomber, so we get our grenade back when throwing down our class ability, plus time dilation allows this to last even longer, so we have that nice 17% damage up almost consistently with this build as well. When we move on to our weapons right here for this, we got adreceptor, what I was using definitely the most on this. We got those final blows, generate a slowing burst, can also freeze targets, so it is a very good way to stun unstoppable overload champions, keep everything at bay, those exploder shanks, those cursed thrall. On top of that, we got the catalyst. When our super is full, we can get it into an alternate firing mode, which turns it into a constant beam of freezing, which I use a good amount on some of those bosses, especially some of the champions, etc., except for tormentors, just because they're absolutely disgusting, have the HP pool of like 7 enemies. For me, I went with Indebted Kindness. Love this thing. I know I'm running a double special ammo, but that's why we have special ammo finder right there. Never was really a problem for me unless there was something like a tormentor that was facing us on like wave 39, 49, where they are just insane to defeat. So Indebted Kindness with Adgers was definitely my go-to. Now for heavies, most of the time I went with our wave frame grenade launcher down here. Envious Assassin, a chain reaction on this, so it has good explosions. I can hold about 13 in the magazine, so we can do a good amount of damage with it, plus the ad clear potential is off of the charts. So when we didn't need a wave frame, like when there was something like one of the floating bosses, the Shrieking or the Wizard, use this Quillum's Terminus with unrelenting killing tally. Nice for staying back, especially with the little weapon damage we get on the surge there, we're able to get a good amount of damage on the bosses, and it's a lot easier to hit those floating bosses than with this, because this really does not at all, but it's good for that ad clear potential and with bosses standing on the ground. As for our bad boy right here, nothing on this really too crazy besides armor-piercing rounds with our sidearms, as well as Hail to the Storm, Pillar of Ice, defeating those frozen targets, spawn as stasis crystals. On top of that, shattering those frozen targets and stasis crystals have increased damage, so these pair together. Plus, we're going to have ice crystals, slowed targets, frozen targets, literally everywhere with this build. Shattering those stasis crystals release shards of damage that also slow targets, so it pairs perfectly for the Onslaught game mode and Stasis in general. We can stop enemies in their track with being able to slow them, give extra damage, and create all that nice stasis freeze explosions going on with the Horde mode. Now, last but certainly not least, for our abilities, aspects, and fragments, we got our Behemoth, of course, with our Glacial Quake, mostly for keeping enemies at bay, but when you're doing that damage, just basically spamming that heavy attack on those enemies. Barricade, totally up to you. I think I liked towering more towards the end, just kept us way more safe. At the beginning, I was using Rally, especially in those boss rooms with that LMG. Strafe Lift, totally up to you for your lift, with Shiver Strike, of course, and then for me, I was going with Glacial Grenade. You could go with Cold Snap if you would like, or I should say Dust Field, not Cold Snap. I would go with Glacial though, just because of how the Behemoth plays and shattering all of those crystals. So one of those ways is with the Cryoclasm. So after sprinting, we get that nice long and powerful slide, sliding into crystals or frozen targets, shatters them, damaging nearby targets and also any frozen targets nearby. So it is a little bit of a juice to the amount of stasis crystals we're gonna have, especially with our super. You can use your heavy, slide into all of those, use your heavy, slide into all of those, and on top of that, we are just destroying enemies. So with that as well, we are going to be getting Tectonic Harvest to proc, so shattering all of those stasis crystals and stasis shards are going to give us a melee energy when we pick them up. So between our Glacial Grenade, between our frozen targets, with using our slide, breaking everything, the Pillar of Ice on our aspect, as well as that Adreceptor, going to be creating stasis shards everywhere. So our melee is going to come back very, very quickly, and it is a very good way that we are going to pair with our fragments down here as well to do some wonderful chaining of the stasis. So you can see one of those ways we got the, well, we're near frozen targets, we're going to take less damage or stasis crystals, so pairs back to all of this with shattering, getting that shards, pairing even more of those stasis crystals and frozen targets. On top of that, we're going to have Whisper of Conduction, so all of those shards that we are creating are going to actually track to our position, so we don't got to go out into the danger and find them. They will come to us from a pretty good distance away. On top of that, our Whisper of Fissures increase the damage and size of the burst of the stasis when we destroy a stasis crystal or a frozen target. Like I said, pairs right back into everything that we have, since we're going to have a bunch of those stasis crystals out specifically and a good amount of the frozen targets as well. Last but definitely not least, Whisper of Shards. Want my grenade back as fast as possible so we can create even more of those stasis shards, frozen stasis crystals, and frozen enemies. We are going to be using Whisper of Shards, so when shattering a stasis crystal temporary, boost our grenade rate, so we are going to have our grenade up almost all the time because of all the stasis crystals that we're having, all the frozen targets we're shattering. On top of that, this is a melee spam because of the shards that get attracted to us. It is a beautiful little synergy, like I said, of this build. It keeps everything at bay. We got deep into Onslaught with it, goes through Legend as well as the normal version with ease. So this build is very good for the Onslaught realm, very good for ad management and just wave ad clear potential, if you will. Plus, I love having the freeze and slow of this build with those grenade launchers on top of it. It is a fun little off meta build that still works very good. So I appreciate all you guys for coming back to the channel, loving these builds. Hopefully you guys are as well as the god rolls that we have been putting out for these shiny brave weapons. So I appreciate that support. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't, and slap it at bell. Helps me out, helps the channel out a bunch. I appreciate it as well when you guys do. So I will catch you guys in the next one as well. Peace.